Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of my podcast. Today is going to be a little bit different. It's just going to be a reflection, kind of just like a decompression, just me talking to y'all. Kind of like that other podcast I did a few episodes ago where I was just talking. There wasn't really any type of flow or direction, but it's just kind of a conversation between me and you. Life is funny. Life is funny. And regardless how many podcasts I listen to, how many episodes I make, how many books I read, there's always a test. There's always a trial or tribulation. There's always a mountain you got to climb. Like, no matter how positive you are, no matter how much you meditate, no matter how much you focus, concentrate on being positive, life is always going to throw something at you. And I'm not saying that to, go off on a negative tangent or anything like that. I'm just saying, life is throwing a lot of lessons at me. And the reason I didn't really, want to focus on a central topic this time is just because there were just so many, in the week that has passed and the weeks before that, I've just been bombarded with lessons that life is trying to teach me. And it's not so much that they're new lessons, even though that is the case in a few situations that they're new lessons that are popping up. But the greater part of what I'm experiencing in life right now is lessons that I have been going through since I was in middle school, high school, college, the military. Like, it's just a repeat of lessons that I've been going through. And the funny thing is how the lesson has evolved. So in the beginning, it was, on a lower level. It was maybe caring about, so we'll take caring about how other people think about you for one second, caring about other people's opinions. In high school or middle school, it might have been focused on trying to be cool or other people's opinions and stuff like that. But as I get older, the dynamic shifts because I'm not so concerned about what people think about me, but when you get older, you start caring more about your reputation and what other people think about you, even those who don't know you, what they think about you. And your reputation is important. Now, it's different caring what people think about you and shaping your life to reflect other people's opinion and having a reputation that precedes you, like in the business world or with your friends and family and stuff like that. That's different. I feel like reputation is more based on morals or, your principles or how you want to be seen as a person. Caring what people think about you fluctuates because, in different settings, you can act a different way to appease a different crowd or different people. So, I've been really focusing on my reputation, and my reputation is solid, because by and large, one thing that hasn't really changed is, how strong I am and how passionate I am about my, fundamental core being, like who I am and what I stand for. And even though, my ideals have changed around, certain topics and beliefs and stuff like that, I'm still very, very much me at the core of who I am. And that's the lesson in and of itself, dare to be different. I know that's a corny saying that they used to say back in the day, but it's relevant, dare to be different. There's a lot of people in the world that are too caught up with trying to, be like everybody else, try to have the life that they see on Instagram, the money and the women and all this other stuff. And it doesn't have to be like that. Life is about your truth. It's about your happiness. And at least that's what I'm finding out through my experiences and my perspective of living this life. And as long as you got the things that make you happy, as long as you're, surrounded by the people that love you, as long as you carry yourself in a way that benefits yourself and others, I don't see how life could be bad per se. There's always the exception that beats the rule, but it's not commonplace. It's not the be all, the end all be all. And there's no set road to go down life. Everybody's journey is different. I have friends that it seems on the outside looking in that they just went straight through life, A, B, C, D, hitting all the check marks and all the points on the way. And then, I have other friends that went straight from A to, M, or just made big jumps and big leaps, depending on the situation, the opportunities they had available to them and stuff like that. And then I had a lot of friends, that kind of went back and forth, and nothing's wrong with either way, because life presents us all with different opportunities and, different situations, different criteria, different, you know, factors in our life that, have to be taken into account. John's life is not going to be the same as Sally's. Sally's struggle is not going to be the same as Jake's. You gotta take. There's a lot of things you gotta take into accountability to see, to understand, different people's lives. And the biggest thing I've seen is like they say like, oh, but this is different. I got this going on in my life and I got that going on in my life. Yeah, I understand that. But at the same time, I believe that at our core, people are the same. So you might have money, you might not have money. You might have a family that loves you and supports you. You might not have a family that loves and supports you. You might have, a disability. You might have a mental health diagnosis. But the characteristics that I feel we have the same, that we all should work on and try to possess, will help us to achieve success nonetheless, such as like discipline, persistence, perseverance, courage, just those things that we talk about or have talked about in the podcast in previous episodes. Once I feel a person develops those or get a hold of those, I feel like the world is theirs. So if you look at every football player, every movie star, anybody and everybody you'll look up to, at some point in life, they've had to execute, or in several points in life and throughout their life, I would even argue, they would have had to have exercised discipline, courage, confidence, and a host of other characteristics. Now, they may not have shown these characteristics up front, but through hardship and adversity, they've developed them over time. Like people who talk about, how they weren't really successful in the beginning, but through discipline, consistency, hard work, dedication, they pushed through, and now they're millionaires and billionaires. Like Elon Musk is a good example. The creator of Facebook, his name eludes me right now. Like the creator of Google, all these people that, started out with just a dream, and now they're impacting the world in a very significant way. I believe we all have access to that. It's just a matter of your mindset, which is why, again, I've created this podcast, because I don't think real change will happen by going into communities and, giving them this and giving them that, and the food drive, book bag drive, that's all good. That's all things that we can do to help, our fellow men, our fellow women. But at the end of the day, if we want to see real change occur, if we want real change to happen within ourselves, one, we have to take accountability. Like say, hey, I'm not where I want to be. I can do better. I can be better. And two, we have to exercise those characteristics that we've been talking about in order to develop our mentalities, our inner environment, so that we'll be able to shape our outer environment, which is something we talk about a lot in the podcast as well. I think that the key to success is, one, developing those characteristics, but developing those characteristics come from a renewed mind. You can't get different results doing the same thing that you've always done or that you used to do. It's just like a math equation. If 1 + 1 always equals 2, which we know this for a fact, you can't get a higher number by using the same equation. You have to change something around. You have to change numbers around, the sign around, maybe the order of operation, making it a little bit more complicated. change it from addition to doing calculus. You gotta break it down. You gotta do something different. You can't just be stuck in your ways. You can't not be flexible and expect that you're gonna be able to make it through all these trials and stuff if you're just rigid and you're unwilling to, take some blows. Because that's what's gonna happen. Life is unforgiving. Unforgiving in the sense that if you make mistakes or if you don't adhere to these common characteristics that we all have the equal opportunity to work on and to develop, then it almost seems like life punishes you with hardship and just things being felt at a greater experience than they have to be. If you have finances, I'll use that one for an example. Like, if you have financial discipline, yes, you might not be able to go on vacation all the time. Yes, you might not be able to, buy what you want all the time. Yes, you might not be able to have that new fancy car, but your bills will be paid. You have money saved up. You'll always be fed. Your kids will have clothes and they'll have opportunities playing sports and stuff like that. And because you're exercising that discipline on that money, and you're having the courage not to keep up with the Joneses and be worried about what everybody else is doing around you. Now, and you have confidence knowing that if you stick to this plan, you'll achieve whatever financial goal that you've set in the future, and also other goals, because you need money to do things, and through disciplining your finances, that's going to free up some money somewhere else for you to be able to do things, if not immediately and definitely. But on the flip side of that coin, if you don't practice financial discipline, then, and you're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, you're worried about appearance, you're worried about going on vacation, taking pictures, updating Instagram each and every day, then you experience, if not an outwardly difficulty, it's an inner difficulty, because you're not aligning with your true self. You're putting on a facade, or you're showing this outward image to the world, to everybody else, like, hey, this is me, look at what I got. But at the end of the day, when you go back home, when you're alone with yourself and when it's quiet, you're living a totally different life, and it's not congruent. You're not cohering to your mind, your body, your spirit. It's not all in alignment. It's not all a part of the same mission. You're worried about different things that aren't gonna help you achieve true happiness. True happiness starts within yourself. It's not gonna come from the love that other people give you. It's not gonna come from a house a certain size. It's not gonna come from a car. But happiness is gonna come from you being satisfied with who you are and where you're at. Because there's always gonna be more. There's always gonna be more. There's always gonna be a newer car. There's always gonna be a bigger house. There's always gonna be a new fashion. There's always gonna be more clothes. Like, there's always gonna be more. So at what point do you finally reach the finish line? At like what point are you finished? Like, at one point do you have it all? Like, have you achieved the goal? And if your goals are set on a sandy foundation, meaning that it shifts all the time, it's not solid, then you're never going to obtain true happiness or any goal at the end of the point, because there's always going to be more. We have to build our foundation on cement, something solid, so that it could stand earthquakes, it could stand fires, and all the trials and tribulations that will come in our lives. And that's another lesson that I wanted to talk about. There is no finish line. When I was little or younger, in high school, I used to always think, if I get to this point in my career, this point in my life, this point in the military, that'll be the finish line. I'll be on autopilot, work for 20 years, retire, and just live a long, happy life with my kids, not worry about money, have everything paid off, have no debt. But as we've discussed in my podcast, life has not been ABCD for me. It's been more of a back and forth, up and down, and it's just been a roller coaster. It's been a ride, and that I'm not saying that to complain, gripe, or express a I'm sorry, explain a dissatisfaction in reference to my life or the journey that I've experienced. But I'm just saying, that's been my journey, and I've learned a lot in the past, and in the present. But there is no finish line. Like, I'll never get to a point where I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm set. I don't need to do anything else. I don't need to do more. Like, every day I get up, I have to get after it. I have to get after it. If you stop working out, your body's gonna degrade. The human body's meant to be used. It's not meant to sit still. It's not meant to be inactive. If I stop trying to eat healthy, there's effects that come with that. If I continually eat fast food or food that's other than optimal for my body, there's consequences that come with that. If I stop reading, and start watching TV, these movies, cartoons, the news and stuff like that, there's effects that come with that, and over time, it becomes a way of life. It becomes something that you get more comfortable doing. At first it might be annoying. At first you might want to, do something else, or go back to your old life and your old routine. But at the end of the day, change in most settings or most often is not easy. It's not easy to just begin, eating in reference to a caloric deficit, meaning that you can only eat a certain amount of calories in a day, which is usually less than the amount of calories you've used to have ingested. It's not easy working out every day because you're gonna be sore, especially when you first start working out. You're gonna be extremely sore, and soreness is gonna last for a couple of days. So even depending on how hard you work out and what you work out, and you're gonna have to lift weights even though you're sore, because that's the commitment you made to yourself. Sometimes it gets boring reading, you're tired, and it just puts you to sleep, but you got to get that knowledge, man, because knowledge is power. And it's not so much that knowledge is power, but the application of that knowledge is power. But you first have to obtain it. So, you got to read. You got to read. I feel like, we all need to read, pay less attention to the news, media, the world, social media, all of that other stuff. We need to, put our focus in a digital book, a real book, whatever it has to be. I feel that reading is very important, and we've kind of got away from that as a society, but we need to go back to it, because there's a lot of truth in books and a lot of history that is not really being put forth in books, and we need to get back to knowing our history. We also need to work out. We don't need to be sitting behind the desk being inactive for hours at a time. We need to be up, moving around, because if you don't use it, you lose it. That's another lesson that I've been learning here recently. Just trying to pick up playing sports and being athletic like I once was. If you do not use it, you lose it. And being a 3-sport athlete in high school, it's very different now that I'm 30 up in age and stuff like that, and I'm trying to do some of the things that I was doing when I was 16, 19, 20, 25. It's a little bit different. I remember when I used to laugh at the old man at the basketball court because their game changed. They played old man ball. It wasn't really that sporadic young type of everywhere basketball. It was that sit in one place and make that your shot, or get that steal when nobody's looking, or it was strategy. You got to play to your strengths. You got to play to your strengths, because you are going to get old. We are going to get old, and getting old's a blessing, because especially nowadays, it doesn't seem like people are making it as far as up in age as we once was. It's a gift. It's a gift to have gray hair. It's a gift to get old. It's a gift to experience the fullness of life, instead of having it taken away from you at such a young age. There's a lot going on in this world. Wars, famine, disease. There's just a lot going on in this world that is going against our ability to even walk around freely. You can see that with Corona. We just had a year's worth of, a pandemic, and that was crazy. But I mean, even if you look around and you just, you know, be observant, there was a ton of lessons that came out of, the pandemic. Like, the biggest lesson for me, you got to treat your body right. You have to treat your body right. You have to eat the right food. You have to, make sure you're getting the right amounts of certain things like vitamins and nutrients and stuff like that. You can't just eat to live. I'm sorry, you can't just live to eat. You have to eat to live, and there's a certain way that you go about doing that. It's not just stopping at fast food because it's convenient. Sometimes you got to go home and you got to cook. Even if it's been a long day, and if it's been a long day and you don't want to come home and cook, then meal prep on your day off. Instead of just sitting around the house not doing anything, just chilling, watching whole seasons on Netflix, just cook. Cook 4 or 5 days worth of food, and a big pot of spaghetti, something like that, and just eat off of that for the whole week instead of going to fast food all the time. And when you don't do that, you'll also see benefits in other parts of your life, like in your finances. You'll save a lot more money because I was eating out a lot. And even though I was making smart choices like not eating McDonald's and, Burger King and like fast food restaurants, I was at like sit down restaurants, but I was still eating out a lot. And I've kind of brought that back. And, I've noticed, I'm tongue twisted. I have no idea why. I noticed that I'm not like leaking money. Like I'm accountable for all my money, which I was in the past, but I was like, man, I'm spending $100 on fast food like a month, or whatever. It's just ridiculous. Like, when I have food in the house, it might not be what I want at that moment in time, but I have food in the house. So I've been trying here recently to actively not eat fast food, to bring food to work, to pack my lunches and stuff like that. And I've felt a financial benefit from it, and I've also felt a physical benefit from it. I've lost some weight. I'm more active, more energetic, and I don't have to spend time eating because I could just reach in my passenger seat and open my lunchbox, and I could just eat on the go. It's not something I got to dedicate 30 minutes, an hour to. I'm just eating on the go. Just sit in the parking lot and open up a snack bar, or go somewhere and warm up some food, and then I'm back at it again. So yeah, life as always has been fun. At different times is a different type of fun, and I by no means am living a perfect life. I definitely feel that I can do better, and I'm trying to do better. But I think that we all have something to teach somebody else. Like, even at any stage in our life, however successful we feel we may or may not be, there's always somebody that could benefit from your hardships, from the knowledge that you've obtained. There's always somebody that can do better, that can learn from what you're going through. So don't go through it for nothing. Like, try to mentor somebody. Read, a little kid, or go to the Boys and Girls Club, or volunteer at schools. Go out there and mentor somebody. Because we need leadership. We're hurting for leadership in our communities, in the sense of, the motto where it takes a village. It takes a village to raise children. It takes a village to come together and to create change that they want to see, in society. So, we need to get back to that village mindset. We need to get back to taking care of each other, looking out for each other, not holding others accountable, and not turning a blind eye to people who are doing wrong or other than, and trying to catch these kids before they go off and they're too far gone down the wrong path, and they got to learn lessons the hard way. We can save a lot of people a lot of hardship, just by intervening at key points in their lives, and ultimately will create change. So thanks for tuning into the podcast. I appreciate it today. I had a lot going on in my mind, and I was sitting down trying to build the podcast, but I was like, man, let me just talk to him. Everybody's not looking for structure. Sometimes they just want to hear a conversation, hear somebody, just vibe. So that's all this was. I hope that you appreciate it. And till the next one, y'all take it easy.